this video, we're talking about the struggle with wool. We listen to the story about Farmer Joe's struggle on the farm, and then the struggle you may be having with your wardrobe. Once we all get through the struggle, as individuals, we then can begin to snuggle. G'day, this is your country uncle, Uncle John, telling you stories about family farmers and the wisdom of wool. I've had 40 years in the wool industry, 20 years on farm, and 20 years as an accountant, advising many wool producers. But the best year of my life was when I was jackarooing in Queensland. Oh, we had so much fun. So sit back, relax, watch this video, and I hope you get a little bit of fun. Chapter 2.4, Ownership with Ongoing Struggles. Joe grew up under the wide Australian sky, the younger of 3 children in the Vanderberg family, whose roots in the region stretched back 4 generations. His grandfather, Patrick, was a legend in the local circles, a man who carved their farm out of bushland with little more than determination and a battered axe. Joe's father, Michael, had weathered droughts and floods, always insisting that ownership means stewardship, not just possession. As he would always repeat monthly, the land gives, but you must give back. From his earliest days, Joe was steeped in the rhythm of farm life, the pre-dawn rumble of machinery, the earthy scent of the cattle, and the annual rituals of planting and harvest. Yet as he grew, Joe noticed the weight of his father's carried, especially in lean years. The farm was more than a business, it was an inheritance, a trust and a burden. Joe watched his parents navigate the dedicated balance between economic survival and environmental care. Their decisions were always made with an eye on the future and a deep respect for every living thing on the land. When Joe finished school, he felt the pull of adventure and left for university in Sydney. He studied agricultural science, eager to understand new methods and technologies that might help their farm adapt. City life dazzled him, cafes, concerts, and friends who were chasing careers far from the dusty paddocks of home. Yet each holiday, Joe would return to the farm, drawn by the land's quiet power and the community's unspoken reliance on families like his. Joe's father grew ill during Joe's final year at university. In the hospital, Michael spoke softly to his son. Ownership, Joe, is the difference between reacting and reshaping your future. It's not just about profits, it's about looking after what matters most. When Michael got better, he went home, but was on light duties, and the responsibility of the farm, its debts, its hopes, its challenges, fell on Joe's shoulders. At 24, Joe became the owner of the Vanderberg farm, inheriting the demands and rewards of stewardship. The first few months were overwhelming. The farm's books were in disarray, machinery was aging, and a dry winter threatened the wheat crop. Joe's siblings had started lives elsewhere. The decisions were his alone. Unsure but determined, Joe began by drawing up plans. He identified areas of improvement, consulted with local advisors, and reached out to neighbours for advice. The sense of autonomy was once exhilarating and terrifying. Every choice he made, from purchasing new irrigation equipment to hiring staff, felt weighted with consequences. Joe knew the old ways wouldn't be enough. Inspired by university research, he trialled new crop rotations and introduced drought-resistant seed varieties. He invested in digital systems to monitor soil moisture and livestock health. With each innovation came uncertainty, and with some neighbours muttered he was taking unnecessary risks. But Joe believed that ownership meant embracing the possibility of failure and learning from it. He also diversified the farm, planting native wildflowers alongside crops to attract pollinators and improve biodiversity. These changes were not always popular, and during the first year results were mixed. A sudden frost damaged half the wheat, and new machinery broke down. Yet Joe persisted, buoyed by the sense of purpose and a growing confidence in his ability to adapt. Autonomy brought freedom, but it also demanded accountability. One autumn, faced with a tough decision about selling halves at a lower price or waiting for the market to recover, Joe spent long nights poring over market reports. He chose to hold off, risking cash flow for the hope of a better deal. And the gamble paid off. When the prices rebounded, his patience was rewarded. Joe learned that ownership was not just about making decisions, it was about standing by them, whatever the outcome. The success was sweet, but the setbacks were instructive. When a new irrigation system failed due to a critical dry spell, Joe didn't blame the supplier or the weather. He analysed what went wrong, consulted experts, and made changes. Each mistake became a step towards resilience. 2 years into his stewardship, Joe faced the gravest challenge of his life. The summer of 2019 brought a once in a century drought. Rivers dwindled, stocks tank dried up, and the cost of feed soared. Media crews arrived to interview desperate farmers, and the government officials debated relief packages. The community was tense, and Vanderberg Farm hung in the balance. Joe's mother, Margaret, watched as her son wrestled with impossible choices. The weight of ownership settled to him like a physical force. The farm's future and the well-being of the families who depended on it rested in his hands. The night before Joe was to make his decision, he walked into the fields alone, feeling the cracked earth beneath his boots and the vast, star-studded sky above. He thought of his father's words, of the generations who had shaped this land, and of his own hopes in the future. He realised that ownership was not only about making hard choices, but about trusting himself and to do what was right. Joe called a meeting of neighbouring farmers proposing a collaborative plan, sharing water resources, pooling machinery, and supporting each other's families. Some balked, fearing competition and loss of independence, but others saw the wisdom in the unity. Inspired by Joe's leadership, the community voted to join forces, adopting water-saving practices and creating a shared emergency fund. The drought persisted, but the collective action brought unexpected results. By sharing resources and information, farmers reduced losses and protected their livestock. Joe's farm survived the worst of the seasons, and when the rains finally came, the land responded with bounty that astonished everyone. The wildflowers he had planted bloomed, attracting bees and butterflies, and the wheat crop was the best in years. Local newspapers ran stories of the Vanderberg approach, and Joe himself filled calls for agricultural research and government officials. His willingness to take ownership, not just of the land but of his community welfare, had made a tangible difference. Staff morale soared, and the families who had considered leaving began to return. As the season turned, so did Joe's reputation grow. He was invited to speak at agricultural conferences, sharing his experience with innovation, collaboration, and stewardship. He emphasised that ownership was not just a legal concept but a daily practice, a commitment to accountability, adaptability, and care. Joe's farm began to prosper. Joe also found work-life balance, making time for his own interests and family. He mentored young families, teaching them the importance of autonomy, resilience, and passion. He built lasting relationships not only with neighbours but with business partners across the state. Through his stewardship, Joe created a legacy that extended beyond financial returns. Years later, as Joe watched his own children play beneath the gum trees, he reflected on the journey of ownership. The farm still faces challenges: market shifts, climate uncertainty, changing regulations, but Joe was confident that the principles he had embraced would endure. He remembered the long nights of doubt, the thrill of and anxiety of making tough calls, and the support of those who believed in his vision. The land, which had once seemed a burden, was now a source of pride and connection. Ownership had transformed Joe, teaching him that real control lies not in avoiding risk, but in shaping the future and accepting responsibility for every outcome. The Vanderberg's legacy continues, not simply as a patch of earth in New South Wales, but as a living investment to the powers of ownership, of stewardship, innovation, collaboration, and resilience. Joe's story became part of the local law, inspiring others to take up the mantle of responsibility and build their own legacies. For Joe, ownership was more than a title or a bank balance. It was the foundation upon which dreams were built, communities were sustained, and the futures were forged. In embracing the challenges and rewarding of stewardship, Joe discovered the true heart of farming and the enduring value of bringing one's best to the table, year after year, season after season. Joe's journey reminds us that ownership, in its deepest sense, is a force of transformation, demands courage and compassion, foresight and humility. By taking responsibility for the land, the people, and the choices that shape tomorrow, we create not only personal fulfillment but shared success. Joe the farmer's story is not just his own, it belongs to everyone who dares to claim ownership of the future and to shape it with integrity and hope. The struggle was worth it. So there you go. That's the story of Joe the farmer, and the struggles are worth it. So now we're going to listen to Darian O'Dreas about the wonders of the wardrobe, part 1.
Hi everyone, so nice to see you here again on my channel. In every video I tell you that we all need to learn how to make our wardrobe sustainable. A sustainable wardrobe is the one that lasts for many years and is filled with items that will produce ethically and have less environmental impact. Unfortunately, we can't rely on brands anymore because they prefer to omit who makes their clothes and who are their suppliers. But what we can do is to educate ourselves about fashion sustainability and make more eco-friendly choices. So where do we start? I think we can start from understanding what fabrics we can find in the shops, how they are made, and what are the eco-friendly alternatives. There are 3 types of fabrics: natural, semi-synthetic, and synthetic. And today we will talk about natural materials. I'm pretty sure almost everyone has something made out of cotton in their wardrobe. Cotton is a soft, comfortable, and durable fabric. It's also breathable, which helps to keep you cool in summer and warm in winter. But don't get confused, even if it's a natural material, its production is far from eco-friendly. Cotton requires more pesticides than any other crop, accounting for 10% of worldwide pesticides used. Many of those chemicals soak into the ground or run off into the surface water. Moreover, cotton consumes a tremendous amount of water. It takes 2,700 liters of water to make one cotton t-shirt. Organic cotton might be a better solution. It is grown without chemicals, but it uses even more water and requires even more farming land. Clothes that made out of 100% cotton can be recycled, but it's not easy. First, they need to be chopped up and turned back into raw material, and this process shortens the length of the fiber, which doesn't make for the stronger and softer cotton we are used to. Basically, we have 3 types of cotton: cotton grown with chemicals, organic, and recycled cotton. I would say skip the first kind and go for organic or recycled one if you have to. Or you can also try linen or hemp, at least as an alternative for summer clothes. Linen is one of the most breathable fabrics, making it especially cool and comfortable to wear in the heat. Actually, wearing linen can make you feel 3 to 4 degrees cooler than cotton or even silk. It also has twice the strength of cotton, which makes it more durable. Linen also has better SPF properties. Hemp is similar to linen in both feel and appearance. Hemp fabric is 3 times stronger than cotton, so repeated washing will not break the fiber down quickly. It's also breathable and UV resistant. Both linen and hemp are significantly less polluting. They can be grown without pesticides or fertilizers and require less water. Since both of the fabrics are created from natural materials, they are completely biodegradable. Silk is known for its versatility, softness, and comfort. It's the strongest natural fiber and also a natural temperature regulator, helping your body maintain a comfortable natural temperature. The environmental impact of producing silk is very low, although there are some ethical issues associated with silk production. The problem is that most common silk production happens when the silkworms inside their cocoons are put into boiling water to kill them before they pierce and damage the cocoon. This is used to prevent the worms from piercing the silk, resulting in more quantity and quality in a shorter time span. But there is a more ethical alternative, and it's called piece silk, where no silkworms are harmed or killed in the production process. Clothes made out of pure silk are biodegradable and often can be upcycled thanks to the silk's high durability qualities.
So there's Wonder Wardrobe, part 1. Part 2 is coming up next. And remember, life's short, find your joy. And always remember it, so you always enjoy.